Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I love Mondays now. And I don't think I've ever been someone who didn't love Mondays, but at the same time, society says that we shouldn't. And I just love that we get to do this every week on this day.
I know. It's Mondays are my craziest day.
Yeah.
And I don't even get the Sunday night scaries anymore
No.
because I just like what I am doing.
Yeah.
It's I'm it's a 12-hour day
Right.
on
Right.
Monday for me.
Yeah. But you're crushing it. You come in and same thing. We jump into us being coached by our coach after and then we have all these different components to Mondays. But yeah, I think again, it comes back to the systems and stuff,
Yeah. Well, and to just loving what you do.
Well, that too. That's a huge part for sure. For sure. So yeah, what are we talking about on this beautiful Monday today?
Today, we are talking about how to grow your support team. So, how to really know when it's time for you to hire a coach or a mentor, maybe even a therapist, and to really grow the team that you have around you who is supporting you and being the best version of yourself. We all need help. And there's been a lot
not to be afraid. Can't be afraid to ask for that help.
Exactly. So we're fighting against the stigma around, being self-sufficient and asking for help, making us look weak or we don't know what we're doing, which who cares if you do or you don't? Most of us don't anyway.
Right. So, join the club.
Exactly. Right. It actually makes you part of a community if you don't know what's going on.
Yes.
But so we're going to talk about, how to grow your support team, who you may need in your support team based on what your needs are, and how that can sort of take some weight off of your plate. I know that you and I have both talked to clients before. It's I don't know if I just don't know if I can commit the time to this. And that's totally valid, right? There is a point where we can't add anything else to our plate, but truly when you're hiring the right support team member, they are going to take away things from your plate and make your life easier. So it may be that it's whatever you have been looking at, if it seems like too much, maybe that's not the right fit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that another support team member might not be a better fit for you.
Yeah. I mean, the irony of it for us specifically, because we're going to talk about all the different coaches and mentors and support system, team members. But for us specifically, when I have clients tell me that, they even know, they're like, and I know the irony is that you are actually helping me to clear my schedule and have more by doing less and do all of that, because we reach out to people who are busy, who feel like there's too much going on in their life. They don't have enough hours in the day. And that's what our curriculum helps do. And what our coaching helps do is to help them clear that. So it's kind of, counterintuitive, where you kind of have to be like, okay, I'm committing to this, even though I know that this is going to be the solution, but you're adding more. It's kind of, it's a mind trick until you start to see the shift happening. And then you're like, oh, I get it.
Right. Yeah. It's not as if you're just adding something, an additional thing to your plate. You're actually adding a team member in to kind of empty your plate out, to clear your plate and organize your plate and structure your time, which then gives you back time. So that's probably where we should start in terms of thinking about a team member.
I want to say one more thing. I look at it kind of like at investing, because a lot of people look at money like this, right? So just before we jump into it. So investing is, you have a lot of people that think, well, you have to have a certain amount of money to pay your bills. Right. And if you pay your rent and you pay your food and your gas and, all your bills and all these things, then you're good to go. But all of that money is just going out and it's not coming back to you. So even if you have, that's why they say, don't wait until you have the money to invest, because if you invest money into even small little stocks or, little, whatever, we've got NFTs going on, obviously crypto is not doing well right now, but we'll get back there, but all the little things, or index funds or whatever, putting it in even in a high yield savings account, that the idea is that even that money that you think you need, or like, I don't have enough to invest, that money is going to make back more money.
Right.
And so the idea, so it's it's very scary because it's like, I'm putting out expecting to get more, but if you pay it to rent, it's not coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's that same concept but instead the currency is your time.
Right.
So that's
exactly.
Yeah.
You're always looking, and that's where I was going too, is like, you're looking for the return on your investment. So if you're investing in a team member, a support team member that is aligned, you're going to get a return on your investment. It is a value add to your life. And this is part of the mindset work. So sometimes sometimes coaches just aren't in alignment with you. Sometimes, I've had therapists who weren't in alignment with me. I've worked with people who it didn't end up working out because like, we're not all meant for each other. And when we're being authentic, when we're really being who we are, not just people pleasing, the people who we're not aligned with, like, you can tell, right? Because it's like, it's not a match. So, but every like investment that you're making should be a value add. So if you're approaching an investment with a coach or a course or a therapist as like, this is taking money from me, and you're not thinking about what's the value add, what am I getting from it? Because oftentimes, especially with like scarcity mindset, we think about only the money that we're losing, and we think of it as lost money when really it is an investment. So what are you investing in? What do you hope to get out of hiring whoever or working with whoever? And what is the return that you expect to get from this investment? But if you enter into the relationship of like, I'm paying you money, I'm losing money in this relationship, then you're not really setting yourself up for a productive container where transformation can take place.
Yeah. I mean, think of it like your biggest problem in life right now, whatever that may be. It can be, crippling anxiety. It can, with all this fear going on in the world, it can be, for me, it's like meal planning. It's like, I need a personal chef, like to just cook for me all the time so that I can live my life and do my thing. Because sometimes instead of eating, I will just skip a meal, which is terrible. Right. For some people, it's like really bad acne. For some people, it's like, weight that they're trying to lose or gain or whatever it may be. And think about the thing that's really bothering you right now, that if you're like, if I fix this problem, my life would completely shift, and my mood and my interactions with people and how I show up in the world. And that's what our coach says is like that, what would you pay someone that could say that they could get rid of that problem for you?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think in the world that we've grown up with in the past of like, you pay universities to teach you a skill so that you can go out and get a job and earn money, right? It's that return on investment you were talking about. Versus now the new education is like paying a coach or someone to help you with, mental clarity so that you can focus and earn more or do more or be more efficient in your day, have more energy. Like these are all like new wave concepts, but they're kind of old in a sense.
It's just it's education.
It's education, but it's like putting aside the thought of like, is that worth my money? And it's like, yeah, if you have a problem that is literally stopping you from living, if you can't ever get to sleep and you have insomnia, like what if you hired a sleep coach that could actually help you fix that problem? And all of a sudden you have more energy, you have more, like it will affect every aspect of your life. And I think that's what Maggie and I are trying to get at is like the person that you bring onto your team, it needs to be like a return in all areas. Like it needs to like, it's creating this space in your life that is going to help drip over into other areas.
Yeah. And I think it's important here to note too, that historically there are areas of our lives in which we feel more comfortable investing money and spending money. So we feel more inclined to invest in our physical health than our mental health. And that may look like investing in gyms or a personal trainer or a dietitian or investing in actual medical care. since that's quite expensive in the United States, right? So, and even then some people struggle to invest in themselves in that way. But I think there is a hierarchy of like accepted investment, right? So we will invest in our education, that's accepted and encouraged by society. Then next comes like our physical health, right? And then kind of last comes our mindset and our mental health. And I think we're seeing a definite shift here. As even the science is catching up to how much our mental state and our mental wellness impacts every single area of our life, impacts our success, impacts our fulfillment, impacts our relationships. So, I think as the science is catching up with this, and as we're seeing what drastic changes can happen when we do invest in our mental and like spiritual well-being, more and more people are catching on, but there's still, I think a lot of people are still hesitant because oftentimes these investments are quite large, right? And so,
I think that's all in perspective too, because we've talked about that with clients of like you said, education and the healthcare, physical healthcare are two of the most expensive things if you're living in the United States, right? In a lot of in Europe, in most countries, it's free. It's completely free, right? My mom sent me an article the other day about, since I'm from France, about like, some of the things that French do better than the United States. And those are two major things that are on that list. And it's insane to think that. But people, in the United States are accepting that I'm going to pay, $50,000 for 4 years, put myself into debt. And at the end of it, I'm going to come out with a business degree and I'm going to, I guess, work for someone else, start a business, whatever it may be, but you didn't learn how to become an entrepreneur, right? Or you go to school to be a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, and you spent, you're going to make a lot of money. So you're going to pay off that debt quickly, right? That's the idea. Does that always happen? Usually not. But then the same thing with healthcare, right? If something happens to you physically, you don't have a lot of options when it comes to fixing your physical health. And you have to pay high copays and you have to pay high, pharmaceutical drug prices and all of these different things. And you're right. Those are so accepted in the United States because it's like, well, that's our option. Right. But then when it comes to your mental health, as we're starting to see from all these, people, athletes, everyone, friends and family, obviously the pandemic helps us show that more, that is so crucial and can almost heal a lot of the physical ailments that we have, And so then when you think about the price of a coach, which the average price right now on the market is about $5,000 to $6,000 to work with a coach for about 4 months, right? And that includes, everyone's got their own, container of what that includes. But if you have a really good coach and they're charging that, you should be getting the result that they're, that they're promising. And that's going to help every aspect of your life. And you paid $5,000. Now, if it's a business coach, the idea is that you make more than that, right? But if it's a mental thing, also mindset thing, that you're going to be able to now be a more efficient, happier version of yourself to be able to do more in life, which again will bring on abundance and, financial abundance as well, if that's what you're looking for. But then when you compare it to the price of like a $50,000 4-year degree, not 4 months, people are like, well, but society accepts that, and it's like, think about it though. That's where I think it gets me, is I'm like, for me, it's a no-brainer investment, even though it seems like a big chunk of money right now. Nothing compared to the student loan debt that I put myself in for something I don't even use, Well,
I think that's true too. I think that there is a certain sense of security in investing in the education system, when in reality, you may or may not get a job in the field that you got your degree in. You may or may not be using your degree later. You may or may not be able to pay off these student loans. So there isn't, like, you will get an education if you go to class, but that's the same thing that happens with the coach. You will get the coaching if you show up and do the work, right? And so it is a symbiotic, like both, like a coach is not going to fix you, first of all. And so if you're looking to be fixed, you probably would benefit from a coach to help you with that mindset because you don't need to be fixed, right? There's not anything like broken within you, but you have to show up for the work. And so I feel like a lot of people are insecure about the investment. They're like, well, what if especially when you're talking about like mental health or mindset work or spiritual work, right? It's like if you work with a business coach and they say, okay, I'm going to get you 5 new clients in X amount of time. It's like, okay, well, I will quickly recoup my investment there and be able to pay off this coaching. Well, okay, so let's put a price on happiness. Let's put a price on contentedness. Let's put a price on more enriching relationships. Let's put a price on raising and elevating my own self-worth so I no longer accept being treated like shit, or being in a job that doesn't value me, or being in a relationship where I am constantly giving more than I'm getting, right? Like put a price on these things. This is what showing up for the work really does. And I know like it's supposed to feel scary, right? When you make a big investment like that, it's supposed to feel scary. And I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, if it was the right fit, I wouldn't feel so scared. No. It's going to feel, especially if you're not in the practice of buying something that costs $5,000.
I think sometimes if it's the right fit, it can be even scarier because you're like, oh man, this is going to work and I'm going to be a different person. And I have to do the work to get there. Like you said, the coach is not going to fix you. They're going to guide you, with the unbiased attachment to whatever it is that you have. And they're going to help you through, holding you accountable to get to the end result. And, I think you're right. Like all of those things you mentioned about relationships and jobs, not, valuing all these people, but like, I'm thinking about the people who have like crippling anxiety or depression that they're like, it's affecting how they are, how they parent, how they are in their relationship, low sex drive, that all of these things that's affecting their day to day. And they feel like they have zero control over their mind and how they feel. And how do I get better? And so some people would say that's like a therapist. So do you want to talk a little bit about the difference between like a therapist and maybe a coach?
Sure. So I I have both a therapist and a coach because I have different needs. Therapy is typically relegated to looking back and processing trauma. And some behavioral therapists will actually help you to develop tools through like CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, where you will really begin to observe the patterns of your mind and look at like, okay, an event happened, which triggered a thought, which triggered an emotion, which caused me to do, which triggered an action, right? And so how can we reframe those thoughts and reframe these belief sets, which is a lot of what, I do in coaching as well. But so therapy is really, if you've experienced intensive traumas or even a lifetime of like lowercase t traumas, and there's a lot of stuff in your past that you have yet to reckon with and really process through, therapy can be a really great container for that. I especially like, talk therapy I just saw something the other day. It was like, it can take like 6,000 hours of talk therapy to get like 30% better. So that's not, I really highly recommend working with a therapist who is who works with CBT, who works with specific systems in place to have you really rewire your brain, right? Because yes, we all deserve to have the space to really talk it out and to be able to have the space to process. But processing is not the same as changing what it looks like for your future. Is as actually rewiring your mind so that you choose differently. So that's the realm of therapy. I think kind of crossing over here in our like Venn diagrams, like coaching, right? So coaching is more forward facing. How can we get you from where you are now to where you want to be? How can we create the systems, the mental frameworks? How can we do the mindset work? How can we do like belief shifting, and of course, when you're looking at belief sets, you have to look at where they originated from. So in coaching, you are going to be doing a little bit of looking backwards, but coaches are most of them are not qualified and are not licensed therapists to handle specific mental illnesses. Okay. So if you have a specific mental illness, specifically like even depression or anxiety, you would want to see a medical professional or a licensed therapist to help you with this treatment plan, probably first, right? So, and I always when I work with clients, if I notice that their depression is getting worse, or that they start to develop depression or anxiety, I'm not the person I can help them with strategies, but I'm not the last stop there. And so I always suggest that they go seek help, and I offer to help them find someone who can be of a support there. So really, like for mental health, in terms of like specific diagnosable disorders and diseases, therapists are your go. If you are looking to really up level your life, if you've already done, oftentimes the clients that I have already worked with therapists, which means that they've already done a lot of this like backlogged trauma healing and really looking at their past. So they're ready to really move forward and continue.
They have that awareness. Yeah,
exactly.
I had to do the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really the difference. Like therapy is more looking back, coaching is more looking forward. But of course, as you and I know, we've worked with a multitude of different coaches inside of this field, that there's a coach for everything. So that's what's really great about coaches too, because of course in therapy you have like, relationship counselors and addiction counselors and grief counselors. So there is variation inside the therapy field, and you find the same
coaches. Oh my God, I've met. I mean, even being through our, when we hired our business coach, like he's with other coaches, and we've got like hypnotherapists and financial coaches and gut health coaches and sex coaches and
embodiment coaches and breathwork coaches. And
oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. Or relationship coaches as well. There are, specifically, but again, that goes into, I think that's the biggest differentiation is like the medical, like therapeutic side of it, like you said, working through it versus like the actionable steps of like the difference between a relationship therapist maybe and a relationship coach would be like the coach is going to help you, like, what is your end goal? How do we take the steps to get to that point? But they've done a lot of the work already to be like, this is what's happened to me in the past, why all these relationships failed. This is what I've worked through. Here's my awareness. And now I'm going to be more intentional about my choices versus like, if you've never worked with a relationship therapist first, then there's all of this like delayering of why your relationships haven't worked in the past and all this stuff.
What are your attachment issues?
What are your,
all of this. Yeah,
exactly. And that's a good place to start. And then you can work with a relationship coach and be like, okay, well, do you want to be in a relationship? How do we do that? How do we work towards that goal and the actionable steps that it needs to get there? Yeah.
So there is a great dear friend of mine is both a counselor and a certified counselor and a coach. And so it's like, sometimes you get really lucky and you get the best of both worlds.
There you go.
But I think, depending on, it's not, I actually had a client ask me this one time, just like, do I need to have been to therapy before for this to work? And I was like, no, absolutely not. But I am not a therapist, right? I think it's really important to know who you're working with and to talk with your potential coach or provider about what their qualifications are and how they work best with people. And I think we could spend some time quickly now just thinking about like how we found our best coaches, like how we knew it was a good match, to maybe help other people feel more comfortable in making their decisions. So can you think of the best coach that you've ever worked with?
I'm working with him right now.
All right.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think what's interesting in my journey is I worked with dance coaches my whole life. So for me, I worked with some pretty legendary coaches that nobody really even knows about, but in our industry, they're legends. And I was able to, work on technique and musicality and all these things. And the way that the coaches were chosen for me is, my dad or people who knew that these coaches were the right fit for me, they came in and I just started working with them. So now as an adult, and I can like actually vet my coaches and understand what it is that I personally need. And it's not just in a sport, it's more for my personal mental health. I have hired a couple of business coaches, and then I've also worked with a couple of life coaches and manifestation coaches, which have helped me more with the internal emotions I was pushing away, perfectionism when I was dancing. But I would say I had two great coaches that I worked with. One was a manifestation coach who helped me delayer the emotional side of things. Mm-hmm. And that was something I was pushing away a lot. And I was like, no, I'm just going to be actionable. I'm going to take, I already know what I'm doing. I'm aware. And I was not aware. And I couldn't run from it anymore. So, and then she's the one that connected me. But here's the cool part. Once you're in the circle, you get a lot of great referrals and you start to trust people, and then it becomes a whole thing. And so she referred me to my business coach currently, and he's incredible. He's one of the best coaches in that field that I've ever seen, and produces results that are real. It's not even like, oh my gosh, these people are making millions of dollars. It's like, no, they're producing consistent income monthly at a high level. And that's all. I'm not looking for the coach that's going to make me $1 million. He's helping you become the millionaire you want to be. And that was the most important qualification for me, is I don't want someone to say, yeah, I can help you make $1 million. It's like, but how are we going to get there? Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's not an action plan for me. Versus like, he's like, you can't make $1 million until you've made, $500,000. And then you can't make $500,000 until you've made $250,000. And then like, you just have to work your way down, and it becomes like, what would you want to live on right now? But the best way, I said, when I started, that I found my first coach, was I was looking for a specific thing that I needed. And this was my first business coach. I needed funnels, right? I needed work with how to create all of these click funnel type things so that I could lead my client to my website. Yeah. And I literally started searching on Facebook. And if you look at most people's, Facebooks that are doing this, that in their bio, it says, I specialize in this, or I help people do this. And I found this coach that we had a mutual friend. And she said, I specialize in helping people set up successful funnels and systems in their business. I'm like, okay. So I did a clarity call with her. Mm-hmm. And that's the cool part. Clarity calls are free. Everybody wants to meet you. Everybody wants to talk to you. So I was like down to do a bunch of clarity calls and be like, who do I want to work with? And I ended up working with her for a 4-month container. Excuse me. I ended up working with her for a 4-month container, and it was exactly what I needed in that moment. But then I started getting addicted to the fact that I could get quick results with someone who specializes in one thing. And I was like, oh, how do I pick my next coach? Like, I was ready to be like, now I know what I actually need. And like you said, it's kind of a combination of like the business side and the personal side. So right now I'm actually looking to hire a hypnotherapist for some things that I'm working on for the next couple of years of my life in my personal relationship. And it's so cool to see what's available once you get into that container.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is like, you were able to identify a need that you had. So you did some searching and poking around for that need, and you entertained some different options, and then picked the one that felt like it was the right fit for you at the time.
Yeah. She was living a life that I wanted to live. She had told me exactly how things were going. That I think is very important. If your coach is not doing what you want to do, like I would not hire that coach. That's my personal opinion, because I want to know, and it doesn't need to be in the same field, but like they are going to give you a result that they have already accomplished themselves. That's the idea. Right. She also spoke French, which was kind of cool. So I was like, oh, we've got this other language thing. There's a cultural aspect here. And then when I asked her specifically, I told her exactly what I needed. she like laid out a plan and said, this is how I get that result. So it was very important for me to know, like, she had a system.
How do we get there?
How do we get there? Not just like, yeah, I can help you with that. It's like, okay, great. Like, how do we do that? Like, it's not just like you hear me out and then like I have to vet you too. It's got to be a two-way street.
Yeah. And I think by and large, like, I know, people talk about shitty coaches out there who are just like looking to close clients and like whatever. I think by and large, that's not the case. I think that most people get into this industry to actually serve people. And that's why a clarity call can be really helpful. So we talk about like the gap oftentimes when we do our calls, right? We see where our clients are, where they want to go. And it's our responsibility to decide and to let them know whether we can fill in that gap for them or someone we know who we think can fill in that gap for them. And so it seemed really important to you when you were going through your decision-making process to actually have a game plan for the gap. Right?
Yeah, I definitely needed to know that like they weren't just saying, yeah, I've done this for, multiple clients, I can help you. I needed to know, like, how do you help me? Like, what's the problem? Because for me, not understanding how funnels worked at all, I was like, I don't even know what the next step is. So I want to make sure that like you educate me. It's like, I don't want you to just fix my car. Teach me how I can fix my own car, that kind of thing. And I also want you to think, I was thinking about this when you were talking about clarity calls, like think of clarity calls as like tasting ice cream at the ice cream shop.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't know which flavor you want yet. You don't know which one is going to be the best fit for you in that moment. So you get a bunch of little small spoons and they give you as many tastes as you want, right? I've not seen any ice cream shop be like, oh, there's a limit. But then that's the idea. It's free sample of 15, 20 minutes. It depends on the coach, of getting an idea of how this person can help you get the desired result you're looking for.
Yeah.
And there are multiple people that could have helped me get that desired result. That were lots of coaches that worked with funnels at the time. But I was looking for a personal connection, someone that understood my journey, that I was already an entrepreneur for multiple years, that I wasn't a newbie, but I needed this particular technique and system in my business that I knew nothing about. But I had basic entrepreneur experience. I had run businesses already. I had just never really done it online. She was the one that really helped me get online. That was really important because I had always done business face to face.
Yep.
And that was I needed her to understand I was making this major transition of how I do business. And I felt like funnels was the answer for that.
Yeah. I mean, here's the other aspect, you guys, like it's a vibe game. So we go on vibes, right? If something feels off to you, I think it's worth exploring that. If you're on a clarity call and you're like, this doesn't really feel right, share that with the person who, the coach that you're interviewing, right? Because you're both interviewing each other. You should come to a clarity call, come to a coach with questions that you have that you want answered, and they should be able to provide answers to that. And the coach is also interviewing you to see if you're a good fit for what they know how to do best. And so it's a mutual like interview process where it's also like, can we work together? Right. It's
like the Voice when we turn over the chairs, right? That it's not just in the hands of the coaches. It's in the hands of the person hiring that coach.
Yeah.
You need to know that that's a good fit for you as well.
And it's vibes, guys. Like if it feels right, then it probably is. And like,
don't second guess it all the time, because that's where the perfectionism comes in and really like takes a toll.
Right. And when, we get to second guessing, especially when it's a major investment, because our ego doesn't want us to invest that amount of money because that feels scary and not safe. So our ego will invent any number of things for us to back out of this investment. But I will say, even the coaches that I have been less than 100% satisfied with, I have 100% gotten exactly what I needed from the container, even if it was not at all what I thought I was looking for. And so I think too, for me, my journey in hiring coaches has really been like they have found me. Like when I knew what I needed, the perfect person showed up, and it just continues to happen like that in my life. Like I know you actually did some searching. That has not been my experience.
That's my personality though. Like, so I'm kind of like that person, but I'm trying to be more like you in that sense of allowing myself to surrender a little bit and like, let the perfect person come into my life, you know?
Yeah. And honestly, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and some people may be in a position right now where they're not really sure what the fucking problem is.
Yeah.
And that happens. So I would say, like, if you know that you are stuck and you are not where you want to be and you're not really sure what the problem is, open yourself up to finding just a life coach, right?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody in general who can help you instead of, looking for, like, one of the best coaches I ever found was a sensual embodiment coach. And I knew that was like, after my healing journey, I knew that that's where I needed to go next. And so I like opened myself up, and she literally popped up in my timeline and like on my feed. And I was just like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah.
But it's, we may not always have that level of awareness around what it is specifically that we need. And so we can start broader and then sort of work our way more specific into like,
yeah,
coach.
Totally. Cause that's the thing with my first coach, I was specifically looking for someone who did funnels and systems in your business. And I think in the grander scheme of things, I would have maybe benefited a little bit more because I got exactly what I needed out of that coach, but I probably would have benefited more for the first coach to be a little bit more broad and just find a general business coach. Because it would have given me a little bit more of an understanding of how to create a business online versus just the funnels part, because that is a portion of an online business, but it's just a couple of chapters, it's not the big thing. But so I would actually recommend exactly what Maggie just said, is go more broad when you're really not that sure. And even when you think you are sure, like if you've never hired a coach before, a good general business coach or life coach can help you to understand what it is that you need the most. And then you can get really niche, like a financial coach or a hypnotherapist or a gut coach if you're having issues with physical. I mean, that's the cool part. There's coaches now that work in physical health too.
Yep.
And they help you with things that, like, I know someone, she calls herself a hormone coach, works specifically with like, I think you've talked about this too, like your period and syncing up with your cycle and working through that. And she works specifically, obviously, with women. And like, that is something that, like, when you go to a Western medicine doctor and you tell them, hey, I'm having a lot of cramps and acne and all these things, what do? They put you on birth control.
Yep.
Which is the worst thing you could do. And women are realizing as they get older, this is not the answer to period problems. And now there's women who are like, have gone through that, have gotten themselves healed, and they're helping other women learn how to do it the right way instead of going the way that they've always been taught how to do, that society deems, the right way, I guess. So that's for me, when I see all of these coaches, I'm like overjoyed, because I just was losing a little bit of hope of answers for like my kids. Of like, I don't like how I went through the education system, and I don't like how I've limit myself to physicians and doctors because I don't like how they handle me. So I go more holistic. And then I see all these amazing coaches that they became a coach because they had the problem.
Right.
That's the thing, is that, like, how many doctors do you know that they became a doctor because they had a problem they needed to fix? And they're like, I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to share this with the world. No, they just wanted to be a doctor, right? Maybe their family members were doctors. They know that it's a well-paid job. I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a lawyer, right? But then all of these coaches, they've become a coach because they were screwed over, or had a physical ailment, or had a financial problem, or didn't know how to make money and tried every serial entrepreneurial thing they could do. And now they're like, oh my gosh, I finally figured it out. And now I have to share this with the world.
Yep.
That's incredible to me, because you're getting, and that's when you talk about the vibe, that's when, they feel your pain. They can actually pinpoint your pain and say, this is how you're feeling, right? This is what you're going through on a daily basis. Like, yeah, it's like you're in my brain. How do you know that? It's like, because that was me. And I have so many clients, I know you do too, when we hop on clarity calls and they're like, oh my gosh, you described me perfectly. And I'm like, honestly, you're me.
Right.
You're me 5 years ago. Like, and this is what I did. And it worked.
Yeah. I mean, it really is about knowledge sharing. And so that's why I think I would put this in the same category as education.
Yeah.
That's why I consider myself to be an educator, like more so than a coach. It's because it is like, we are all just sharing our knowledge with each other. And I think as much to our detriment that technology has really driven us apart, I think that a major benefit of it is how connected we are in order to share information. And I mean, we always talk about with coaching, right? How long would it take you to figure out this problem on your own versus having somebody who's already solved it show you the way? Right. And how much is that lost time worth to you too? When you think about your investment, right? If it's going to take me 5 years to solve this problem on my own versus 5 months, what is that worth to you? Right. What is getting those, 60 months back in your life? What is that worth to you?
Time is valuable. Remember, you can never make more time.
Right.
Time will always continue on. And the end of it is death for everybody. So we're not trying to get there faster, but you can always make more money, right? It may not feel like it's easy, but money is available to us to make more of, and time is just not. So that's a great metaphor, Mags. Like time is so much more valuable to me of like, I don't want to miss where I am right now,
Yeah. And I think that's, we said we would share a little bit about how coaches actually save you time and save you energy and take stuff off of your plate. This is a major way, right? So many of us are in decision fatigue when we are really exhausted and when we are feeling stuck and when we are not in alignment. And by simply plugging out these energy leaks, pulling yourself into alignment, having a path forward, having somebody who's already traveled the path, having guidance, it really does. It takes, it saves so much time and energy. So even though, I get it. Sometimes adding something to your plate feels like the last thing that you can do. But if you really feel like that, I can almost guarantee you, right? They say like, for people who like, I don't have time to meditate. It's like, you need to meditate then.
Right. You're the one that needs it the most.
Right. So it's like, really, if you're feeling so stretched thin that you can't possibly add in something else, then it's often a signifier that
you need
things
some
are
help.
not in alignment, that they're not balanced, right? That you do need help. And so what would you say? I think we've gone on and on again today.
Yes.
How would you coach somebody to move through like the fear of investment? What's like the main piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing, I would have them write down everything that they want to do in their life. Like go big, go crazy. Like, do you want to travel the world? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to find the love of your life and build a house somewhere? Do you want to just have a simple life? Like, what do you want in life? Most people don't even know the answer to that question. And when you figure that out and you realize where you are, and we talk again about the gap, I would work through some mindset of explaining to them that whatever it is that they desire is available to them. Because a lot of people think, it's not, I can't have that. Right. So why even try to fix myself? Which again, we don't need to fix ourselves. We're not broken, but why even try to hire someone that can give me that result when I can't get to that point? So already working through that mindset, I think will help you to then, when you know that those things are available to you, the desire to have someone that's been through that can, like a mentor,
Yeah.
You just want to hang out with that person for, 6 months and be like, can I just learn from you? There's this like hunger to want to be around someone that has already done what you're doing. Imagine like any celebrity that you love, that you're like, oh my gosh, I just wish I could hang out with them for a day, right? Why do you want to hang out with them? Do you want their life? Do you want to learn a skill that they have? Do you want to, whatever? And a lot of our mentors are like Elon Musk, and Gary Vee and some of these people, Brene Brown. I would love to hang out with some of these people for a couple of days and be like, let me learn from you. And so when you start to look at coaches, that's what I would do, is I would be like, let's understand first that all these things are available to you. What is it that you want? Write that list. And let's talk about what is keeping you from that.
Right.
What's the skill, or what's the pain point, or whatever that's keeping you from getting that life. And that's when you try to find the person that's going to help you overcome that to get here.
Yeah. And I think just really boiling it down, it's like, what is that worth to you? What is having the life that you are dreaming about worth to you? And, I know it takes a fair amount of faith to make that investment, to take that leap, especially if you're not used to investing in yourself in this way, which many of us are not. I mean, I remember the first investment I made was like, oh man, it was like a couple $100s. And I was like really struggling then. Like I had a house, but like food was like, I was budgeting down to the last penny, and but I made this couple $100 investment, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is like, how am I going to eat? Just like, but I made it, and that was big and scary to me. And now we're making like $6,000 investments, and it's like, they get bigger and bigger, and they're still like, they can feel big and scary.
I was just going to say, it does not get easier to make these investments with the more money that you get or whatever. It's because then there's more work to be done. Right. But it is necessary to keep pushing yourself past that comfort zone, because that's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, is that if you are stuck or feeling like you're not moving forward, there's no growth happening.
Yeah.
That would be the first inkling of like, this isn't your life. Like, you can't possibly be content living like this. How do we help you to grow even 1% every single day? Because like you said before, the coaches that maybe didn't feel like a perfect fit, you still got something out of them. You got exactly the result that they promised you, but maybe that result wasn't the one that you expected, or needed in that moment. And that was just a judgment call or whatever. But that doesn't mean that the universe didn't guide you to grow in that moment and you learned something. It was a lesson or a redirection, essentially.
Yeah, always.
So you're always going to come out of it better than when you started. That's a guarantee. Yeah. Now, whether or not that was the exact result you needed in that moment, that's different. That's a judgment call. But you're not going to come out of it worse off than when you went in. There's just no way. Unless it's a really not a good fit. But I mean, I would hope that investment wouldn't be made. If it's really that bad, it wouldn't have been made in the first place.
Yeah. And I think, there's a difference between being scared to make a large investment and like feeling like something is really off.
Totally.
And while this, especially if you're not practiced in tuning into your intuition, the language that your body is speaking to you, it may be harder to make these kinds of decisions, which is another reason that working with a coach is great, to teach you how to do this. But really, like, I want to honor, especially if you've never hired a coach before and you're watching this, I want to honor the fear that like continues to this day when we continue to make investments. It's, you have to stretch yourself, and it is like, it's scary. But that doesn't mean that it's not right. And so, with the latest investment that we made in our business, it was like, wow, I'm really, this is not what I was not really looking for this, which is not how I typically find my coaches, right? It's like, I usually am like looking for it and they come to me. So this is like a new experience. And like Christine really had a chat with me. She was like, you know, I know that this is scary for you for this reason. This is kind of scary for me for this reason. We're both being vulnerable here. Let's like jump into this though, because the coaches were aligned and exactly what we needed. And it was like, there was no arguing that. And so it was very clear for us, like, even though, yeah, this is a big investment right now, it's right. Right. And we have to.
And we had each other. I mean, that helps, you know, to hold each other accountable and really make sure the work was going to get done. And I didn't feel like that we were going to fail in that way because we were ready for it.
That's it.
But
I think that's, you know, it takes some self-trust. If you show up to the container, like, you are your own master healer. Yeah. Yes. We work with guides. We work with people who are more experienced and have more information and more knowledge and more tools and who are going to help and serve us. But you are your own master healer. If you show up to the container, if you do the work, you will get absolutely your return on investment. Totally. And that is like hands down been my experience and the experience of everybody else that I've worked with who's ever worked with a coach. So
yeah, we can literally go on like this for hours, as you guys can tell. And honestly, this is a topic that I think is really important, not just because we're coaches, but because we believe this is the future. Like the education system, as you can see, high and low, and healthcare and all of that is going to do what it's going to do. And it's a beast that we can't tame, but we can choose to participate in a new and teach people how to learn how to have control over how they serve themselves and how they're being served. And I think that is the most powerful thing ever.
You get to choose your teachers.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You actually choose who's teaching you and what kind of content you're consuming and like what work you're doing. It's your choice, and it's totally self-guided. It's like picking through like curriculum and just like picking and choosing what lights you up and following that guidance. It's really great. And I'm just, you know, I can't encourage people enough to make this investment. And, you know, if it is feeling really scary to you, start small, but start somewhere. Grow the support team. You need people around you in your corner who are not biased, not your best friend, not your mom, right?
Yes. Yeah, we didn't really touch on that a lot, but yes, don't use your parents or your siblings or your friends as therapists and life coaches, because that's never going to end well. It's a very unsustainable temporary fix. You need people that are just outside of the scope of attachment to your situations, but have also been through what you're going through. Right. Your closest people are going to sympathize with you because they love you, but chances are 99% of the time they've never been through what you're going through.
Right.
So, yeah, we love you guys.
Another hour-long one in the book.
That's it. Hope you guys got value out of this. We love you so much. We, as you can tell, are very passionate and very excited to be a part of the future movement. You know, the movement that is now of coaches and educators of the world. And we love what we do, and we love being able to work with amazing clients and see their lives change before their eyes. The building of the faith is just
so great.
It's amazing. So we will see you guys next week.
Bye.